What's going on, Duke fans? It's Jack with JD, and today we are looking at Duke versus Boston College, the matchup that is next. I'm not sure it's the one that was circled on anyone's calendar, but it's the next matchup that awaits the Dukies. It is a place that Duke has had a little bit of trouble playing at in recent years, at Boston College in particular. And they are a team that has had better times, a program that has had better times. And Coach Earl Grant, this is his fourth season at the program. His first 3 years, steady improvement. This year, not so much. But we're going to get into all of that and more as we go through this video. So, JD, quick, if you want to start from last game, what's one quick thought you want to get across as we kick off this video?
That Boston College is one of the places you and I have been to for two Duke games. The last time was in the 22-23 season when they won by 1 point. Now I remember it. And we came out and we ran into one of the Plumleys,
Marshall.
I think. Marshall, who was off to Harvard Business School.
And so were you.
And then, I was off to Harvard as well. I said, hey, I'll see you there. And then I had a chance to talk to Jay Lucas, and that was fun. You said, he's never going to remember you from the, K Academy. And there was nobody talking to him. And I went down and I said, hey, Jay. And he turned around and he went, Jonathan. And I went, whoa. And you were a little surprised by all that. But you're absolutely right that the other game we went to, they lost 89-84 back in, I think, 2017, 2018. And I think that was the game. So we've been there twice.
That was the Marvin Bagley, Wendell Carter, Trayvon Duval, Garrett Trent Jr., Grayson Allen team, just for all of our watchers and listeners out there.
All right. So that's my quick memory, quick take on why Boston College is familiar to me. For us.
Right. And that's why, in my mind, at least, it's a tough place that Duke's had to play, because when we've been there, they've been very close games or Duke has lost. And with that being said, because I wasn't on the post-game Miami show, so there was one small takeaway I wanted to make sure I got across here, which is it really doesn't have much to do with the game or the score or anything other than, so Spencer Hubbard gets into the game late, and everyone's rooting for Hubbard, right? And he gets to drive, and he kicks it to Foster, who hits the three. My big takeaway from that, the guy on the bench who celebrated the most was Tyrese Proctor, who on a night where I know Duke won handily, but he didn't score. And I think that says a lot about Tyrese Proctor, because he could have been, given a little half-hearted celebration, right? Like maybe kind of not pouting, but kind of feeling bad for himself. He didn't score. And he was the first guy off the bench celebrating Hubbard getting the assist to Foster. So I think it says a lot about Tyrese Proctor and the leader that he's been for this Duke team.
Hubbard had the shot. He could have taken the shot. And instead he kicked it back out and got a really nice assist on the play. The Crazies reacted appropriately. They were disappointed. They wanted him to score, though.
They did. They did want him to score. So, with that being said, let's talk about Boston College quickly here. So, as I mentioned, Coach Earl Grant, he's in his fourth season at the program. He had steady improvement each year until this year, and there's a reason why. They only returned like 15% of their production from last year. There's a lot of new faces, and there's a lot of young players on Boston College. And in today's college basketball, and in general, quite frankly, it's really hard to be good when you're young, and it's also hard when you've got a lot of new players. And so, Coach Grant has a couple of things working against him in that sense. They have lost 3 straight coming into this game. They're 9-8 overall, 1-5 in the conference. You may be asking yourself, who's that one win against? That would be Miami. So that might let you know where the state of Boston College basketball is right now. Now, their best player is certainly Donald Hand Jr., who's been really solid for them. 15 points a game, 7 rebounds, and he gets to the free throw line. He's a guy who likes to attack and get to the basket. He's averaging over 5 free throw attempts per game, and he is shooting like 91% from the free throw line. So he's a guy you don't want to foul. And then rounding out the starting lineup, they've got Chad Venning, who's a transfer. Played a couple years at Morgan State, a couple years at St. Bonaventure. Now he's their starting center. At power forward, you have Elijah Strong, who he's kind of strong. He's 6'8", maybe a little. I'll save that. He's 6'8", 235. Maybe not all muscle is what I'm getting at there. 10 points a game, 5 rebounds for Mr. Strong. And in conference, Josh Beadle, the Clemson transfer, solid defensive guard, has been starting for Boston College. And the last starter in conference play has been Deion Brown, who's a junior transfer from UMBC. So I'm going to pause right there, JD. Any thoughts you want to share or any questions you have before we move into the rest of the Boston College roster?
Well, I think one of the quick observations is Chad Benning is the big guy at 6'9", 270. And he credits his footwork underneath to being a high school boxer. And that's what turned, he actually is pretty good underneath the basket. But that's their big guy. And it clearly has weight, which is good. But 6'9" is going to leave, again, that opportunity for us in the middle for finding Kamal Malowich for the alley-oop and quick inside play. But we'll get more to that. That's my quick. They shoot 34% from 3, 73% from the free throw line. So other than Hand, it's just not – wow, if you took his shooting percentage for the free throw line out, they must be shooting below 70%. But did you also notice they average 12 and a half turnovers per game?
That I did not catch, but there is another stat which I wanted to mention, which was that they rank near the bottom of the country in fouls committed per game. And you'd say, okay, but how many steals do they get, right? Like maybe they commit a lot of fouls, but they generate a lot of steals, so you can live with it. They also rank near the bottom in steals generated per game. So they foul a lot, and they don't create a lot of turnovers, which is not a great combination to have. Yeah. Along with what you just said, which is they turn the ball over at a fairly high rate. Not as bad as the other two stats, but not great either. And to your point, Venning is their biggest. I mean, Hastings, who I think has some promise, is their backup big man, Jaden Hastings, but he's also 6'9". And against Notre Dame, they were, especially early, playing with Venning down low, trying to have him score in the post. And that's one of the main issues, really, with this Boston College team going up against Duke. Their three-point shooting is just not good. And they try to score from the inside, and as I've said time and time again, it is almost impossible if that's your game plan. We saw Notre Dame. I said before that game, I thought that could be the reason they could be better than Pittsburgh. Now, they shot 61% from three. There's no way. I don't think that'll ever happen again. But I didn't think it'd be like that. It's hard to see how Boston College is going to win this game other than they're at home and maybe they get some at home against Duke out of body, performances from some of the players on the roster. because the rest of the rotation, you've got Fred Payne, who's a sophomore guard. You've got Chaz Skelly, who's a junior. Roger McFarland is a grad transfer from Southern Louisiana. As I mentioned, Jaden Hastings, their backup center, redshirt freshman. And Luka Taves, he's a freshman point guard from Japan. He doesn't play very much. He gets like 2 assists per game. Now, part of the reason I think Boston College has been struggling this year is they brought in a couple of transfers. They have a young roster, lots of sophomores and some juniors, but they brought in 2 transfers along with Venning, who's been good. So 3 transfers, I should say, in Dion Brown and Roger McFarland. And part of the problem, I think, for Boston College is they probably were expecting more from those 2 guys, who respectively this year, you look at a Dion Brown, who in 23 minutes a game is averaging 6 points, and you look at a Roger McFarland, who in a similar amount of minutes, 22, 23 minutes per game, is averaging 5 points. The reason I bring that up is because at their previous stops, they both transferred. Dion Brown at UMBC averaged 19 points a game. Wasn't a very good team, but you're expecting more offense still. And Roger McFarland averaged 15 points a game. And so they're just not getting – I imagine Coach Grant thought he was going to get more production from those 2 players.
It's going to be a tough game. It's just going to be a tough game for them. And I wish I had more analysis of this game, but I think I could go to the 3 things that I'm looking for segment of our show.
Before you jump into that, one final fun stat on Boston College. So the last time they had back-to-back 20-win seasons, Boston College program, was back in 2005 to 2007. And at that time, the coach of Boston College was Coach Skinner, Al Skinner. And their best player was Jared Dudley, who's now an assistant coach with Dallas Mavericks after playing, I think it was definitely more than 10 years in the NBA. So needless to say, it's been a long time since Boston College has had a consistent basketball program. And for me, like I remember when they were, I hope I have this right, but they were in the Big East before they joined
right. Yep,
the ACC.
You're absolutely right.
And they, at that time, especially with Dudley in those couple of years, like they had a good program. And so it's been kind of a slow sludge where they've just they're not the same Boston College as they used to be.
It's got to be hard when you've got a program like Miami or Boston, and you're trying to figure out how to improve it. And you go up against Duke, which can get, the best recruiting class, did an incredible job through the transfer portal, and has a couple of returning guys that are key elements of the team. And it's just got to be really, really difficult to say, we got to play those guys?
Yeah. So the one thing I would say, I think I would separate them. And here's why. Louisville, I think Coach Kelsey did an awesome job at revamping the Louisville roster, and he did so with a lot of transfers. And I think that's the way to go, because you're never going to compete with a Duke or a North Carolina recruiting. Like it doesn't work that way. But because of NIL, I think it's even harder for a Boston College than it is a Miami, who I think has more money from their donors than Boston College basketball. I don't think Miami basketball is huge necessarily, but I think they've got more support than Boston College, who I bet when Coach Grant, like when he's going to try to get NIL money, he, Cooper Flagg's definitely making, 3 times more than the entire Boston College roster. It's just.
Ooh, it may be more than that, but
maybe more than that, yeah.
But I think you're probably right about NIL, because we went over this in the pregame for the Miami, which was that they had made an Elite Eight and then a Final Four appearance just 2 years ago. And there was some expectations. Jim Larinaga was still the coach, and yet it didn't go the way they thought it would, with some injuries and with Larinaga, leaving. So, all right, three things to look for in this game. Though they played better and they were mighty in their effort, I still am hoping for Isaiah Evans and Caleb Foster to have a breakout game. And if Miami was an opportunity, then I think Boston College is an opportunity to do that. The second thing is, we know that Patrick Gamba is going to get minutes, but Coach Shire has said he wants to increase Kamal Malowich's minutes. So it may not be as even or as almost even as it was before with Malik Brown, but he's going to get 10 to 15 minutes. And what does he do with his minutes? And then I mentioned it earlier, they're just not a big team, though. Chad Benning is a load at 6'9", 270, so he certainly will try to body up on Kaman Malowich, and let's see what he could do on that. Otherwise, they're going to be alley-ooping away from all over the place. Mason Gillis, as you pointed out, had a really nice one. And then, so we might have to have a pool on how many alley-oops will there be. And I think I think the over and under starts with 5.
5? I was going to set it at 2.5, so you're way over. I'll set it at 2.5. Drop in the comments. Do you think it's going to be over, under 2.5 alley-oops? And it can't be passes. Let's just be clear. It's connected alley-oops. That's what you're talking about, not attempts.
Yes.
Okay, so
I think there's going to be 5.
You're saying 5. I'll set the line. Everyone else can play the game. So 2.5. You think it's going to be over or under alley-oops to Kaman Malowich? And the only other thing I was going to add to your last point, to Mr. Venning, all I have to say is good luck, because I don't know how, but I feel like from a national perspective, I know us Duke fans have been watching this for a while now, but I think Kaman Malowich is overlooked at 7'2", 260 or whatever he is, 250 technically, because his it's not so much like the numbers as it is you're starting to see his level of aggression and physicality pick up over the past few weeks, and I think
he went to try to pick up the point guards, and he did a pretty damn good job of playing defense on point guards. And I think that you're absolutely right that, they'll talk about Con Knipple. They'll talk about, of course, Cooper Flagg. And then, there's this other big guy who, well, in fairness, he's now being shown as a top 10 projected draft pick. He is like a 9 or 10 or something.
Oh, by the way, sorry, finish your point.
Well, it's just that on the alley-oop, it's not just that he's 7'2". It's that he extends his arms. And so even if you're 6'9", you're giving away both 6'9" to 7'2", and whatever Chad Benning's reach is, I will bet that Malowich is even higher. So you're giving away not just 5 inches, it's 5 inches plus. And so there's just a great target there for the Duke players.
I agree. And on I think it was your first point on Foster and Evans. Maybe it was your second.
That was my first.
That was your first. We talked after the post game, and I said to you, I looked at the stats, and I was like, it seemed like they played pretty well. But when I watched the game, I kind of understood what you were talking about. I thought they both finished better Like they had good moments towards the end of the game. I liked how Evans I think it was Brandon Johnson on Miami got technical because him and Evans were like going at it on a box out, and he kind of like swung his arm near Evans' face, and I just like the fact that Evans was mixing it up with a bigger guy, defensively going for the box out because it just confirms everything that Coach Shire said about Evans in terms of he's always asking, how can I get better at defense because he wants to play. And while it wasn't necessarily breakout games, I thought they both had solid games, which was better than their previous performances. And so I hope in this game with Boston College that they do, continue to build on it. I think it's tough off the bench to consistently score 10 points a game because some days could be your day and some days it's not, and off the bench, especially with this Duke team, you may not get the minutes to find your rhythm. But I think if your defense and your effort is there and your decision making is there, that's really what this team needs.
So the two things that I would be looking for from them may not have as much to do with coming off the bench. It has to do, let me explain. So Foster has a really good explosive drive to the basket. Not quite as good as Jeremy Roach's, but pretty good. And he can do that coming off the bench, and I'd like to see him have his aggression. And with regard to Isaiah Evans, can somebody set a screen for him? And
well, because I'm sorry, once you said that, it was a major light bulb moment. Part of the reason might be
your head explode.
It kind of did. Well, part of the reason might be the guy who's by far the best at that on this team, Malik Brown. And so without Malik Brown, I don't know how many of Isaiah Evans' threes, but I would venture a guess that 20 to 25% of them were set up by off-ball screens by Malik Brown. And I think
otherwise they're open shots, or he's hurrying to try to get, the guy has no conscience. So as soon as he gets the ball, he's trying to shoot. I would like him to see him coming off of a screen. I could see Knipple doing it for him. I could see Mal doing it for him. I know there's not a lot of set plays here, but they both at times wind up on top, and it would just be nice to see Evans running off him in order to get the shot. That's all. Two things.
I agree. I haven't seen really anyone else besides Brown consistently set off-ball screens, and I think it's one of the more underrated aspects. I know his defense is awesome, but offensively, he doesn't shoot very much. He's a good passer, but his ability to free up guys with off-ball screens, especially Evans, is something that I think really helped Duke. And to your point, though, it was funny. One of the things I noted in the second half was Isaiah Evans actually turned down a three, and it ended up getting rotated, and Khan actually hit a three from the top. But he had,
I believe a fan called his name.
I was very surprised. I was like, that was, for Evans, I never have to. I was like, shoot it, and that with Evans, you never get time to say that. It's going up before you can even think it. So it was very surprising to me.
So I got, along with my 3 points of looking for Isaiah Evans, Caleb Foster, how does Patrick Gamba use his minutes, and my 5 alley-oops to Mal. It goes without saying that I expect Duke's defense again to drive the offense. And just like with Miami, there's a really good chance for them to do this. And the Run the Table Challenge. We're at 7-0 in the ACC. And how do you motivate the team? Let's get to 8-0 in the ACC. And I I think those two things, the defense and the run the table challenge, are going to play a factor in keeping them motivated in a game where, if they aren't motivated, as you pointed out earlier, occasionally we've stumbled at Boston College, though I don't think it's going to be with this team. So
I agree. I think it's important for that reason to get off to a good start, only in the sense that I'm saying that I don't know how much I believe it though. I don't know how important it really is, because to your point, this isn't a Boston College team. The difference in the two teams is much bigger than I think in maybe years past. I want to give a shout out quickly to Mason Gillis, who I think has been playing really well as of late off the bench. And lastly, Duke's offense. So a couple of stats on Duke's offense. So Duke shoots, which has been fairly consistent throughout this year, by the way, 28 threes per game, which is 39th in the country. Now, what has changed is how many are going in. And as shout out Lawrence Freeman was mentioning how more shots are going in. Duke's, I think their movement has gotten better, and now the shots are falling rather. I think it took a little bit of time for the shots to fall. They are now 36th in the country in percentage from three at nearly 38%. So their three-point shooting has really come along, because they were in like 34% the first 12 games or so of the season.
I'm looking at that start of the Miami game, and I had a little difficulty because of the ability to watch the first 4 minutes. Was the programming on ESPN had to carry simulated golf, not just golf, simulated golf to the end of it. Yes, it was Tiger Woods, but Tiger Woods was laughing at the whole experience of this. So I missed the first couple of minutes of it. But at that point that it came on, it was 9-8. And then all of a sudden, I can't imagine we're going to shoot like this again. K2 hits a three. It's 12-8. Gillis hits a three. It's 15-8. Gillis hits another three. It's 18-8. K2 hits another three. It is 21-8. Back and forth a little bit. The score is then 24-10 when Sion James hits a three. Evans hits a three. It's just that Evans actually missed the three then, but it was just, you had to almost feel sorry for Miami because the shooting was just incredible, and the ball movement. And I think in our comments, they had our listeners pointed it out. The ball movement was just terrific, and so I kind of see every opportunity for a repeat of that. But Jack, I thought, since we're not talking about Cooper Flagg all that much, I thought we'd play a little bit of what statistics does Cooper Flagg not lead Duke in? And I've got a couple of them. So field goal.
Wait, let's play the game. Let's see if I can guess. Let's play the game.
Go ahead.
And everyone else can try to guess as well. All right, so I know he leads Duke in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. And he also definitely leads Duke in turnovers, which is, that's fair. He definitely doesn't lead us in field goal percentage. Or he doesn't lead us in any of the percentages. That's what I'm going to say.
Right. So field goal percentage, you're absolutely right. It's, come on, Malowich.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he dunks everything, All right. What's next?
3-point percentage.
Proctor. No, Evans.
Evans has come down to earth at 46%.
Yeah.
After the Auburn game. Yep. Obviously,
Con.
He does free throw percentage goes to Khan.
Yeah.
Uh, Offensive rebounding.
Huh. I would think Malawach, but I'm not.
It
I
is
don't. Okay.
correct. Correct. And uh, doesn't lead in personal fouls committed.
Hmm. Is it Proctor?
It's actually K2.
K2. Wow,
By,
that
by,
surprised
by,
me.
by, it's just by a fraction. Um, so there you go. 3 points made. He does not lead the team in.
Yeah, that's Proctor. That's Evans. Con.
It, it's actually Khan because he
Wow.
attempts so many more shots.
Yeah.
So
Good point.
I thought that would be more interesting than just going through Cooper leads the team and whatever. Look, any game could be a possibility of a breakout game for him. So, I don't put that in my list to look for. But after a game in which he played the other role where he's distributing to everybody and trying to fit in with the team following his 42-point performance, this could be a game where he does look to score.
Well, I think as we have come to learn with Cooper Flagg, it just is whatever the team needs from him. And so against Miami, they didn't need him to score 30 points. The rest of the team did just fine. And so I think actually it could be another game similar to Miami where the rest of the team scores and he gets maybe a little bit more, maybe like 18. One stat before we get to the end here. There's only one team in college basketball who's top 5 in offense and defense.
Duke.
Duke. Second in
I mean,
defense, third in
especially after the
offense.
Miami game,
Yeah.
because we shared that with who? Iowa State was what you figured out last?
So
No?
last I tightened the parameters. So both
Okay, top
Duke
five.
and exactly both Duke and Iowa State are still top 10, and Iowa State is actually they were like 10th in defense. They've actually moved up. They're 8th or something now. So they're firmly in the top 10. So those are the only two teams in the top 10 of both categories, but Duke is the only one top 5 in both categories.
Which is pretty amazing to
It
do.
is.
So before we wrap it up, and we go to ask our listeners for their predictions, and we'll give ours. Uh, I was reading again about one of your favorite players, Jalen Blake's, and I just thought, former Dookie, went out to play for Stanford. Just thought his stat line of 14.2 points per game, 5.2 assists, 3.2 rebounds, and Stanford is overall 11-6 and 3-3 in ACC play. So good for Jalen Blakes. He found himself a home. He started every game for Stanford, and we always want to talk about the brotherhood as well. So I think it's a more complete of a shout out to him.
Absolutely. We'll be sure to give him his credit when Duke plays Stanford in I think a few weeks. So that'll be a fun game. So yeah, with that being said, JD, what is your score prediction for this game?
Um, we're on the road. I think I learned my lesson. We went for 89 points against Miami, and our defense held them to 54. So now we're on the road, kind of a similar circumstance. So drop it to 79 points. But the defense is going to be merciless. Low 50s again. I'm going to stay with my old prediction, which was 52. It's just there's no reason why that defense should go up. The offensive output should come down. So, do I have it really at a spread of 79 to 52? Would be
27.
27.
I
Um, yeah,
yeah,
I'm gonna stay there.
that's fair. That's perfectly fair. I did a similar mental gymnastics, if you will, and I ended up with Duke 78, Boston College 60 because they're at home. I think they get a couple more shots to fall, things like that. But I think Duke certainly pulls away and wins this one comfortably at Boston College. Let us know what you guys think the score is going to be. What are your predictions for this game against Boston College? Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. What are you doing? And we'll see you guys after the Boston College game at around, it's at 8 o'clock Eastern tip, so around 10:15 Eastern time Saturday. So make sure to tune into the post-game show. We'll see you guys then. Peace.